You're gonna serve somebody in a booth or on the street. You're gonna serve somebody. Every vote, every voice, every tweet might be the law, the dollar, or the folks who can't speak loud. You're gonna serve somebody. So say who you're serving now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Serve Somebody with Steve and Emily podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Steve Bradshaw. And as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Emily Hallavy. Emily, how are you doing today?
I am doing great.
All right. Anything on your mind today?
I always have a lot on my mind, but I'm very excited about our guest today, so I say let's dig right in.
I would second that motion. So thank you for that. So today, we're very honored to have as our guest former State Senator Jason Esteves, who is now a candidate for governor of the state of Georgia. Thank you, Senator Esteves, for being with us today. As we begin, is there anything you would like to share with us?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. And by the way, I love the name of the podcast, Serve Somebody. It really is a value that I've embodied my entire life.
Very good. Well, it's derivative of an old song by Bob Dylan called You Gotta Serve Somebody.
Gotta serve somebody.
And we decided to pick up on that. So thank you for that compliment. We appreciate it. And thank you for being here. So Senator Esteves has had a distinguished career in public service. He's been a middle school social studies teacher, an elected member of the Atlanta Board of Education, and of course, a state senator. He is also a lawyer and a successful small business owner. And just on a side note, in 2024, Senator Esteves and I were both honored by Big Brothers Big Sisters of Metro Atlanta with the Game Changers Award. BBBS is a great organization that I certainly supported while I was in office, and it was certainly an honor for me to share the stage that evening with Senator Esteves along with others. So Senator, congratulations on your decision to run for governor. That is a very, very big undertaking. So let's start with this. Yeah. Why do you want to be governor of the state of Georgia?
Yeah, because those kids from the Big Brothers Big Sisters program who are looking for mentors and are in a world where their parents, their grandparents are working harder than they've ever worked. And frankly, they're barely getting by. And whether we are in Atlanta or in South Georgia, people are struggling with the cost of living. They're struggling with the basics, and there has been a loss in hope. And that's been exacerbated by the bully that we have in the White House, who is not only destroying our economy, but feeding on our despair. And because we are in crisis in this state, we need a leader who can cut through the chaos and focus in on the main thing. And that's what I've done my entire career, whether it's been as a social studies teacher, whether it's been as a school board member or a state senator. I've always run towards the fight. And right now we have a fight for our democracy, but we also have a fight for ensuring that people have access to opportunity, which is why my campaign is so focused on health, wealth, and opportunity. So for me, Steve, it's very simple. I've been serving somebody my entire life. And right now, in the moment that we're in, we need someone who is willing to serve the people of Georgia and focus in on the main thing. And too often, our politicians put the politics ahead of the main thing. Even some of my opponents just talking about the political situation that we're in. And I'm like, this is beyond politics. When you talk to people on the streets, they can give a damn about the politics. They are struggling. And they want someone who's actually going to help keep and grow the money in their pockets and ensure that we restore that hope in our children.
Very good. Well, now, as you well know, no Democrat has been elected governor of the state of Georgia since 1998, although others have tried. So my question is, what's different about this year?
Well, look, there are many things that are different. I think people are starting to realize that Republicans in this state have left them behind. As I travel middle and South Georgia, they are asking where Republican leadership has been. They talk about being the #1 state to do business, but those regions have lost jobs, and they're asking where is their economic development. We're also at point in time where the President of the United States is wreaking havoc on our economy and causing a lot of despair. So because of that, the electorate is looking for something new, looking for someone who can bring hope, but also tackle the issues around economic opportunity in this state. And that's why my campaign is so focused on health, wealth, and opportunity. It's the same three things, and I'm going to talk about Emily and Steve this entire episode, because it's what I believe, no matter who you are, Republican, Democrat, apolitical, independent, you care about making sure that you have access to health care. You care about making sure that you have access to good paying jobs so you can keep and grow the money in your pockets. And you care about making sure that your children and grandchildren have more opportunities than what you've had. So I believe, Steve, that if we focus on those issues, if we focus on those kitchen table issues and not get distracted by what Republicans want us to talk about, that we'll be able to form the multiracial, multi-generational coalition that's going to take to win in November. And I'm the only candidate in this race that has the lived experiences of the hardworking people of this state, whether it's as a small business owner. I own 3, by the way, one in Columbus, one in Macon, and one in Atlanta. Whether it's as a caregiver of a mom with Alzheimer's, I've seen firsthand how our senior care system is broken. Or whether it's as a dad of 2 young children in schools right now. I've seen our challenges firsthand, but I've also seen our opportunities. And the vision that I have for this state is one that gives people something to vote for, not just something to vote against. And if we want to win for the first time since 1998, we're going to have to give people something to vote for. And that's what my campaign is about.
You've talked about some broad challenges, but if you don't mind getting a little bit more specific, what issues, what challenges are Georgians facing right now, and what would your plan be to address those?
Yeah, so let's go back to health, wealth, and opportunity. Let's start there. When we talk about the healthcare crisis that we're in, Republican leaders have refused to expand access to Medicaid. And because of that, people have not gotten access to the care that they need, and hospitals have closed all across the state. So I will expand access to Medicaid, something we should have done a long time ago. But I'm also going to make sure that we lower the cost of private health insurance. I'm going to invest in mental health services because we rank near the bottom when it comes to mental health supports. And I also want to end our maternal mortality crisis that has led to the deaths of multiple women across the state. And we do that by starting to repeal the abortion ban. I want to also spend every day focused on lowering the cost of living. When you think about housing, housing is an issue whether you are in Cairo, Georgia, or you are in Decatur, Georgia. It is a problem. So I want to make sure that we stop private equity funds from buying up all of our single family homes. I want to work with county commissioners and city council members to cut the red tape so that we can build more homes, because there are some counties and cities in this state that are trying to restrict the construction of homes. I want to make sure that we have a housing revolution because we need over 300,000 homes in the next 5 years just to meet demand. I also want to focus on lowering the cost of our utilities because we've seen our utility bills go up. And right now, data centers are a hot topic. And a lot of people don't know this. The state of Georgia is sending over $2 billion to data centers in tax credits and subsidies just from state funding. That money needs to stop going to data centers, and it needs to go into the pockets of the hardworking people of the state. And then the last thing when it comes to opportunity, as a former public school teacher, I want to be the education governor and restore that hope. And I'm going to do that by investing in universal childcare so that people can go to work, but at the same time, their kids can receive the building blocks that they need to learn how to read, write, and do math. And I also want to make sure that at the back end of that educational journey, that students young people have real opportunities, good paying jobs, which is why I want to invest in apprenticeship programs and a free technical college system, because we have to restore dignity and respect back into work. And we've been telling kids for a generation that they would fail if they didn't go to college. And the reality is, if you called a plumber or an HVAC technician or a cybersecurity tech, you know that those folks are getting paid pretty damn well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the joys of being an adult
Yes.
is that you get to pay for a new roof and a new fridge
and
a
we
new
should
washer
be
and dryer.
celebrating them just as much as we celebrate those who go to Georgia State or UGA. And that's what I'll do as governor. So Emily, those specifics is what I believe will give the person who sat on the couch in 2024 to move and actually vote in 2026, because people are looking for those opportunities.
Okay, so before you face a Republican challenger, you've got to get through the Democratic primary first without throwing shade on your opponents. Why should the Democrats nominate you?
Because the time is too critical to fool around with folks who can't build the coalition that I can. And it's going to take building a coalition that includes liberals, moderates, independents, Republicans, right? We have to galvanize the base. We cannot take the base for granted. And there are some candidates in this race that are going to take the base for granted. They're going to say, oh, the base is going to come out and vote for a Democrat. It's not true. It didn't happen in 24. It didn't happen in 22. We have to mobilize the base. And that includes those progressives, those liberals, and those moderate voters in the Democratic base. But we also have to speak to those independents and those disaffected Republicans. And I'm the only candidate in this race that can mobilize the base and at the same time speak to those Republicans and independents. And you don't have to believe me. Talk to my Republican colleagues down at the legislature, and they will tell you that my candidacy is one that they are concerned with the most, because I am able to speak to their constituents who are Republicans. I'm relatable because I'm a normal guy, family man with small businesses. I could speak their language as a result. And, you know, where I am in my career, where I'm young enough to relate to those in college, but old enough to where I'm not too far removed from being a senior here in the next 20 years, I could build the bridge between coalitions. And I think that no other candidate in this race can do that.
Very interesting. That's an excellent segue into my next question, because if you're elected governor, unless there's a blue wave here in Georgia, you will most probably be dealing with a Republican-controlled General Assembly. So my question is, how do you intend to navigate that dynamic in order to get your priorities passed?
So first and foremost, there will be a blue wave. There will be a blue wave.
I like that optimism.
There will be a blue wave. But to your point, even if there is a blue wave, we're not going to take the Senate, because the Senate, there are too many. It's been gerrymandered so much that it will be highly, highly unlikely, even in a blue wave year, that we can take the Senate. We're much more likely to take the House. So either way, I'll be working with a Republican legislature. Here are the three main tools that I would use. The first is finding common ground. And there are many issues where Republicans and Democrats agree. For example, expanding access to Medicaid. Republicans actually agree with expanding Medicaid. They're missing leadership. The governor has refused to let Medicaid expansion move. The lieutenant governor, Burt Jones, has refused to advance Medicaid. Prior to him, former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan refused to let Medicaid expansion go on the floor. The speakers of the House have done the same thing. So what we're missing is leadership. Same thing with responsible gun ownership laws and red flag laws. Republicans agree with that, and when you pull red flag laws, which would flag folks who are going through a mental health crisis and prevent them from buying a weapon, for example, temporarily, or victims of domestic violence, or responsible gun ownership laws, which is, hey, if you have a gun in your truck, you should lock it up, right? A law that they have in Texas that we don't have here in Georgia. Very popular with Republicans and Democrats. So I would work with them to pass that. The other thing I would work with them to pass is universal child care, expanding access to early learning. So Steve, there are issues that we can agree on right now and pass. What we're missing is leadership down at the state capitol that actually prioritizes our families. So to the extent that we can't find common ground, then I have two additional tools that I would deploy. One is that I would use executive action. And an example of that would be taking steps to reverse the abortion ban. It would take a while to get the legislature, a Republican legislature, to agree. So what I would do is issue an executive order clarifying for providers, hospital systems, that they can practice medicine without fear of prosecution and help provide them with guidance, something that the current governor and the current attorney general have not done. When it comes to my last tool, it's the veto pen. And there is nothing more powerful than that. Because in Georgia, you have a line item veto, which means that the governor can strike lines out of a bill. That's incredibly important because the budget is the most important document at the state capitol. And Emily, if you don't want to cooperate with expanding access to Medicaid and you don't necessarily agree, then I don't agree with this park going in the middle of your district. And I will tell you, legislators are that transactional. And if you don't believe me, see what Brian Kemp has done to his own party. Brian Kemp has used the veto pen to move legislators in his own party. And Sonny Perdue and Nathan Deal did it before him. And so has almost every other governor in the state of Georgia's history. So as governor, I intend on using the veto pen to push forward my agenda to make sure that we build a better future for all of us.
So a minute ago, you brought up age.
Yeah.
You're one of the younger candidates, and certainly if you go into the general election, you will be the youngest candidate, I believe.
Yeah.
How has age affected you? You know, we're seeing this dynamic between old and new in politics,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of tension there. Have you seen any fallout from that or any effect of that?
Yeah, well, I think at this point now, because of the change in how many candidates are running that just happened, I am officially the youngest candidate in the race. And I think I'm uniquely positioned because of my youth. Understanding what it feels like to be a parent right now of 2 young children. I'm not far removed from having to pay for childcare. I'm not far removed from having to buy my first home. That just happened about 15 years ago, right? I also know what it feels like to be in the sandwich generation. Taking care of your kids at the same time, caring for your parents. Owning small businesses. I'm not at the back end of my career. I'm literally in the thick of it right now, right? So when I'm talking to Georgians about the healthcare crisis or about our education crisis or about the fact that the rising cost of living is impacting us all, I'm speaking to it from firsthand perspective. And what Georgians are looking for is a leader that they can identify with, that understands them, not because of a policy memo or because of an anecdote or because of a poll, but because they're actually living it. So as I crisscross the state, I'm talking to voters about my personal experience. And it's those connections that will help motivate voters in November of this year. So my youth, I believe, helps me, but it's coupled with my experience. Experience not only of being a small business owner, being a lawyer, having worked in a large corporation for almost a decade. I've been on payroll. I've also had to make payroll. But I've also been in politics for over 12 years at the local level, on the school board. And by the way, there's nothing harder than local politics, right?
What?
Yeah.
What did you just say?
There's nothing harder than that. And I did that for 10 years, including 4 years being chair of the school board. And then I've also been in the state senate. So I've seen what works at the state and local level. And I'm young enough to have the audacity to know that we can change it versus trying to work with a system within a system that has proven to be broken. So I believe that my youth and my experience is going to be an asset, not only in the primary, but the general election.
Well, you've talked about mentorship and the importance of mentorship. Who are your political heroes or political mentors?
Yeah. Well, look, it won't necessarily be a political mentor, the first one I'll name, but she's the reason I'm here, and it's my mom. My mom is someone who is not very into politics, but even she has Alzheimer's. She has late stage Alzheimer's. I've been caring for her for the last decade, and she's in a nursing home now. But before she was in late stage Alzheimer's, even in her worst days, if you mentioned Donald Trump, she would there would be a visceral reaction, right? She cared about people. And even though she was not in politics, she was a good judge of character. And she always told me to leave my community better than how I found it. It was to serve somebody. mentality that she had and instilled in me, which is why my entire life I've been serving. So I would say that she is the most influential mentor that I've had in my life. But I would also say politically, I look at different folks and see what they've done. I admire folks like Shirley Franklin, for example, who took on the city of Atlanta at a time when there were so many issues that she needed to tackle. And she went in, rolled up her sleeves, did the work. And when no one thought that she should focus on it, she was like, I'm going to focus on sewers and plumbing and not kick the can down the road, but actually solve the issue. And she took a hit from it. Yeah. But the city of Atlanta was better because of that leadership. And then I also look at folks like Stacey Abrams, who focused in on telling Democrats, we can win this state if we focus on expanding and activating our base. And I believe that that's the blueprint to winning this election, is activating the base, speaking to the issues that normal people care about. And if we do that, we'll activate the base, get them out, and at the same time, appeal to those independents and those disaffected Republicans.
Nice. So with your life in public service, what do you think your biggest accomplishments have been to date?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to public service, I'd say turning around the Atlanta public school system was a significant accomplishment. When I joined the school board, it was in crisis. It was on the front page. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the AJC, had a reporter that was assigned to APS. That was her sole job. And for a decade, that was their job. By the end of my tenure as chair, they no longer had someone assigned solely in Atlanta Public Schools because it was too boring. There wasn't enough news coming out, which is a good thing, as you know.
Absolutely a good thing.
So we took a school system that had been in a cheating scandal, and we were able to take it out of the front page of the newspaper, and at the same time, increase the graduation rates from 55% to over 80%. And today, Atlanta Public Schools has a higher graduation rate than the state of Georgia. It's a big deal. We also turned around the financial situation where we had very little in savings. And by the time I left Atlanta Public Schools, we had the highest number in reserves that the school system had. And at the same time, we were sending more money to schools than had ever been sent before. But I'd also say that my time in the state Senate has been successful. In the last 2 terms, I've built a reputation of being pragmatic, common sense, being able to work across the aisle, which is why Republicans are concerned about my campaign, because they know that when I get to work, I roll up the sleeves, I cut through the politics, and I try to deliver.
Very good. So we're both military brats.
Yeah.
I know you were born in Columbus.
Yeah.
I see your father was in the military.
My dad was in the military, retired after 20 years.
Yeah. So tell me how growing up in a military household has affected your worldview.
Yeah. Well, look, I saw my entire life, I've seen my dad work really hard. Even when he was in the military, he was enlisted. He was not an officer. He was enlisted. And he worked his way up and was proud to serve his country. And when you observe that as a young person, that service, that valor, rubs off on you, right? The other thing is that he was also someone, because of his service, who would keep CNN headline news on all day. So because of him, I think I got my first dose of politics early on, because every time I would come home from school, CNN headline news was on. So during the Bush years, during the Clinton years, I observed all that nonstop through CNN headline news. So his service to the country has certainly influenced my life, but also he was always in tune with what was happening politically, because it affected his life personally. So that was my first, appetizer into the political space. Okay, and to this day, he's proud of the fact that I've entered public service, but in a different way than the way he served.
Absolutely.
But it's what he wanted. He wanted to make sure that I had even more opportunities than what he'd had. So
Excellent.
Well, and we've talked about this before. So Steve's military, but raised Democrat. I'm military, raised Republican. Were you raised Democrat or Republican?
raised Democrat.
Okay.
Raised Democrat. Both of my parents believed that, and again, we were not a political family, but we had conversations about what government should look like. And both of my parents didn't believe that the government should necessarily be involved in your everyday living. But at the same time, they understood that people sometimes fall on hard times. And there should be someone there to make sure you don't hit rock bottom. That safety net has to exist. So they believe strongly in a safety net, whether it was Social Security, whether it was Medicaid and Medicare. They believe strongly that the purpose of government was to ensure that you did not hit rock bottom, and at the same time, we were safe in our communities. So growing up with that kind of worldview, I see my role as governor of the state to be one where I'm keeping Georgians safe in their communities and making sure that they feel welcomed. And at the same time, making sure that we don't have a state where people can easily hit rock bottom. And I think that's where we are. We're at a state where if you have a bad accident, you're going to be in a financial crisis because our healthcare system is broken. You don't have a stable job. You don't have stable housing. And because of that, if you hit rock bottom, there's nothing there to save you. I want to make sure that we have a state government that actually works for the people who are, by the way, paying taxes into the system and should expect there to be a safety net for them.
So you've been in public service a long time, but I understand from your background that the first time you ran for office in 2012, that was unsuccessful. Coincidentally, that was the first year I ran for office, and I was unsuccessful. My question is, what did you take away from that experience? Because nobody likes to lose. As we both said here on this air, losing sucks.
Losing does suck.
But sometimes there are life lessons to be learned from defeat. So I'm curious what you took away from that experience.
Yeah. Well, look, Steve, I swore off politics after that loss. I was like, nope, never doing it again.
As did I.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Here we are.
I wasn't going to run again. But I'm sorry, continue.
So look, I learned a few lessons. One is that campaigning, politics is not a meritocracy, right? The hardest worker, the one with the more serious campaign, whether it's on issues or anything else, does not necessarily win every time. You have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and meet people where they are. You can't assume that people know what's going on. You have to make sure you talk to them about what's going on. So certainly learned that lesson. The other lesson that I learned is that government is a work in progress, and you have to continue to work at it. It's not a one-time thing. It's not, you don't give it one shot and then when it's not working, it's like whatever. It's literally something that you have to continue to work towards, which is why the very next year, despite my hesitancy and concern, people were like, you should run for the school board. You campaign on education. There's an opening to help turn around the Atlanta school system. So those would be the two things that I would say I learned. It's not a meritocracy. You have to meet people where they are. And at the end of the day, there's work that you have to continue to do in government. It's not a one-time thing.
So you brought up your family. Can you tell us more about your family?
Yeah. So my wife, Ariel, is a nurse practitioner. She's from Albany, Georgia. So we're both from Southwest Georgia. I'm from Columbus, Georgia. She's from Albany. She's a nurse practitioner, owns an urgent care in Northwest Atlanta. And we have two beautiful children, 10-year-old Jaden, 7-year-old Zoe. Zoe runs the household. She believes that she is smarter, and I think she is right, that she's smarter than all of us. And, you know, in many ways, as small business owners, as a family, we lead normal lives. Zoe does gymnastics and dance. Jaden does soccer and basketball, sometimes baseball. So when I'm not campaigning for governor, I'm taking the kids to sports. But what I know is that having that family is what has ultimately motivated me to run for governor now. Because there was a time when I could see what 5 to 10 years in the future look like. But with all of the chaos and destruction that's coming out of Washington, D.C., it's very hard for me to see what 5 to 10 years from now looks like. Yeah. And as I said earlier, I just can't stand by and just let things happen. I actually have to step up, and there's no better time to do it than now.
And you brought up your parents too. Can you tell us a little bit more about your parents?
Yeah, so my dad is retired military. After retiring, he went to work for Aflac, which if you live in Columbus, you know
yes.
someone who has worked
Yes.
at Aflac.
Absolutely.
And he was an IT administrator for Aflac for 20 years. So he retired from Aflac as well. And then my mom, she did several different things, whether it was a florist, she worked at the bakery department at a grocery store for a while, and she was a customer service representative. And unfortunately, at the age of 60, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, very young. Yeah. But, you know, as I told you, she instilled so much in me. But those parents were hardworking my entire life, and certainly instilled those values that I take with me today, no matter where I go.
That's great. So on a little lighter note,
Yeah.
Steve and I have this ongoing conversation about our favorite movies. I think I mentioned to you last record that we finally watched The Godfather as a family, which was awesome, which is one of my favorite movies. But we're curious to know what your favorite movies are.
That's a good question. So, you know, I would say that my favorite movie right now, for the last few years actually, has been Inception. And the reason, there are a couple reasons that the movie, and spoiler alert for anyone who's watching at home, there are a couple reasons for that. One, the notion that people were using sleep as an escape, and how sleep can help revitalize you and help you renew yourself. And two, the notion that you can plant a seed and that seed can grow into a much bigger idea is something that's powerful to me. And it's real life.
What's wild about that is my son brought up that movie, and he just last night asked me if I'd ever seen it. And the only time I ever saw that movie was at the drive-in, which is not the place to watch a deep, thoughtful movie.
Yes.
That's more like, a Jack Black movie kind of atmosphere.
That's right.
And so I'm like, well, I did see it, but I could not tell you other than it has something to do with sleep. I have no clue.
I would recommend you watch it again and then look at the deeper meanings and deeper messages that it's sending. I think it's a fantastic movie, but it's the seed that's being planted that for me was powerful, because as I go through life, whether it's someone telling me when I was a young lawyer, hey, you should run for office, and planting that seed, and me saying, well, no, it's too early, and them saying back to me, no, it's not. Why is it too early? That seed alone grew into where I am today. And I think about the young people that you mentor through the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. And it's those seeds that are being planted that lead to amazing things. And that's what I get from Inception.
Well, we're going to watch it tonight. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I haven't seen it, so I'm going to have to add that one to
Yes.
my list of movies to go see. So, in a similar vein, and not asking us to get you in any trouble with Mrs. Esteves, but do you have any celebrity crushes that you want to share with us?
Celebrity crushes.
Bet you haven't been asked that one
I have
before on the
not.
campaign trail.
I have not. Man, Steve, I've never been asked that. So I believe that every man my age, and actually all over the place, Holly Berry.
Can't go wrong there.
Growing up, Holly was in her prime, and I just read an article where she said that she wanted to talk to people or stay relevant and show people that, especially women, that menopause is not the end of your career. It's not the end, and she has stayed relevant and the topic of conversation throughout her entire life. And I think that is a strong message for people, but particularly women, when it comes to empowerment and not letting whatever perception society has of you get in the way. And in the same way that she was my celebrity crush when I was 15 years old or maybe younger, she is still my celebrity crush today.
Well, I'm gonna go on record here and just say that Senator Esteves is probably the only candidate who will bring up menopause on the campaign trail. And you know what, ladies? We've finally been heard.
There you go. There you go.
Well, can't go wrong with Halle Berry. Not at all. So, how are you taking care of yourself on the campaign trail? Campaigning is rigorous. Yeah. I can't conceive of what it's like to try to campaign around this entire state. How are you attending to yourself?
Well, one, you have to continue to try to get your sleep. But two, it's what I did this morning. I play basketball. Okay. I play basketball 3 times a week. Play at the YMCA, and it's stress relief. I'm able to throw elbows, not violently, but just the little pushes. I get to hit a game winner every now and then, and pass the ball when I need to. But it helps me get out the energy and get the blood flowing. I do that 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week. And in many ways, Steve, basketball is like politics, because you don't get to, with pickup basketball in particular, you don't get to pick your team.
That's right.
It's kind of just who shows up, right? But at the end of the day, you have a common goal, which is to win. And my job as a leader on that team is to identify the strengths and the weaknesses of each player and try to, including my own, right? And try to make sure that we're playing off those strengths so that we can ultimately get to the end goal. And I think that's how politics are, whether you're on the county commission or in the state legislature. And it's certainly the mentality that I'm going to have when I'm in the governor's office.
Excellent. Well, as we kind of wind down, I'm wondering if there are any other thoughts that you would like to share with our audience and with the citizens of the state of Georgia.
Yeah, well, look, I would say that if you are tired, I'm looking right at the camera, if you are tired of the old politics, if you're tired of empty promises, then I want you to join my campaign. A new generation of leadership, one that is focused on health, wealth, and opportunity, breaking through the chaos and actually delivering results for the people of the state. Join me, join my campaign, follow me at Jason Esteves, website, jasonesteves.com, and let's work together. And Steve, Emily, I will tell you that if we stand tall together and if we work hard together and organize together, we're not only going to win in November, but we're going to change the face of leadership in this state for generations to come.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much, Senator Esteves, for sharing your insights with us today. It was informative. I hope it was at least a little bit of fun for you. And we wish you the best of luck on the campaign trail. Emily, thanks again for sharing this foxhole with me. Do you have anything you'd like to say as we get ready to depart?
I'm excited for your campaign. I'm excited to see where all this goes, and I'm also excited to have more candidates on as the weeks go on. So
we will see how that evolves.
Yeah.
So thanks again to the team here at the Scottdale Podcast Cafe for doing such a great job in supporting us. And for our audience, if you have any ideas about possible guests or future topics, please visit our website and drop us a note at servesomebodypodcast.com or via social media. Also note that our episodes are available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. We understand that time is the most valuable resource that any of us have. So we sincerely thank you for spending some of your precious time giving us a listening ear. We will never take that for granted. These are indeed serious times, so until next time, just remember to think for yourself and don't fall for the show. Goodbye.
You're gonna serve somebody in a booth or on the street. You're gonna serve somebody. Every vote, every voice, every tweet might be the Lord, the dollar, or the folks who can't speak loud. You're gonna serve somebody. So say who you're serving now.